thank you for showing up for this GRITS today. We're going to be talking about how to create gorgeous slides. If you don't want to create gorgeous slides, but you just want to create good slides, we can still do that too. So it doesn't have to be gorgeous, but we can get you there, or we can get you from bad to good, and that works as well. So like Scott said, I work in research and graduate studies, and I do a lot of different things, but part of one of my favorite things that I do is I help researchers prepare research presentations. And so he mentioned I work with Sunrise Sessions, which is a quarterly event that we do down in Salt Lake. We do have our student-produced Ignite sessions, which will be coming up in April for our research week, and it's these 5-minute talks given by students about the stories behind their research. And then as well as TEDx USU, I've worked with all of our speakers that we've had doing TEDx USU for the past 3 years. And so over this time, aside from the fact that I have kind of a nerdish, geekish obsession with PowerPoint slides and presentations, over this time I've worked with more than 80 researchers just on these 3 series of presentations. And these are, time when I've spent a couple weeks with each of them, and sometimes even much longer than that, working with them on their talk structure, their design, and especially their slides and presentation. And so over the years I've learned a few things, but the thing that I think matters most for this particular context is I've learned that slides matter a lot, but also that good slides make a difference. They really do matter, and they help improve the quality and the content of the research that you've worked so hard to share and prepare with others. There's a lot of benefits. There's reasons that we come up here and we have stuff behind us and we stare at a completely annoying light in front of us that we're trying to ignore. All of that seems like maybe it's a lot more effort than it's worth, but the power of visual presentation to go along with your oral presentation shouldn't be ignored. Good slides, they show organization, and they can display the roadmap of your talk better than you can say it yourself. In the same vein, they also show relationships, where you can say things and they always have to be in chronological order. Your slides can help you backtrack, it can help provide context for where you've been, where you're going, and it can show whether things are hierarchical or sequential or non-related at all. Also, good slides display emotion. And some of you may think that your different areas of research don't require having emotion as part of your research presentation, but there's not a single person here that doesn't want to be touched in an emotional way, and also there's not a single person here that doesn't want to be delighted. What a slide should do is create a really great harmony between what people hear and what people see, and people want to be engaged both on their right brain and on their left brain sides. And there's not, whether you are in math or whether you're in engineering or whether you're in history, every single one of you can benefit from having simple, well-designed, well-put-together, thoughtful slides. So the one other thing that I've also learned about slide presentations is, as much as we love good slides, they're also pretty rare. And that is something that many people think is a pass for. If no one else is doing good slides, then I don't need to do good slides. It's not my responsibility. I will be par for the course when I'm giving a presentation at a professional conference. But I think that we should all think about it a little bit differently, and that because they're so rare, it's a great, easy opportunity for you to stand out from your peers. If you show up with a well-presented slide deck that goes along with your well-prepared research, you're going to have that much better of an advantage with those that just threw their slides together at the last minute. So instead of thinking of this as an excuse, think of it as an opportunity. Excuses in my house growing up, they were called yabbits. I don't know, did anyone else grow up with yabbits, adorable little temptations that caused you to not do things that you knew that you were supposed to do? There are a lot of yabbits that I've heard over the years about why we shouldn't spend our time making sure that we have good slides for our research presentations. So here's one. Yeah, but good slides aren't serious. Hardcore science needs hardcore slides. If I have something that's fun or delightful, maybe my research won't be taken seriously. And that is not true at all. How about this? Yeah, but I want to be just like my professor. And you should see her slides. How about this one? Yeah, but what about handouts? If I don't put everything that I want people to know on my PowerPoint slides and then print them out in the notes format, then how will anyone know what I said at all? How about this one? Yeah, but good slides are too hard. This one I hear a lot, and this one is probably one that we'll be able to address really, really well today. Also, I think the one that we hear a whole lot is, I just don't know how to make them. I know that I want to be have good slides. I know that it requires some effort. I'm willing to put the effort in, but where do I begin? Where do I start with? Well, let's try a little bit of a comparison. Let's start here. This is all of my Yabbits, but put into our PowerPoint standard template. And maybe you don't need to go as jovial as callouts and random rabbits for your presentation slides, but I'm guessing that most of you would rather see images and visuals that will help you remember them rather than black and white with bullets right on top of them. You may say, yeah, but I'm not a designer. And that's okay, because we're going to be able to make this an easy way for you to be able to identify some specific things that you can do to change your slides, whether you are a designer or not. You may not be a designer, but all of us are eaters. And so we're going to use a metaphor today that should help create some triggers, so when you look at your slides, you'll say, I know exactly what I need to change for that. So today you will hopefully have all had a chance to eat some pie. We're going to be talking about pie today. And so what we can do is, let's think of our presentation as a pie. And so who likes pie? I'm like mediocre on pie. But I know what I like and what I don't like about pie. There's certain pies I like, there's certain pies I don't. Who's ever made a pie? Some? Okay. So one thing that everyone knows about pie, whether you've made it or whether you've eaten it or not, is that we eat with our eyes. And that anyone, whether you like pie or not, you would rather eat a good-looking pie than a bad-looking pie. The same thing is the way with the way that we work with presentations. We learn with our eyes too. And so if people hear great, great things coming out of your mouth, but they see something that's a little bit unappetizing up here on the screen, then maybe that's something that we'll want to try and work on. So your presentation should look just as good as it tastes were it a pie. And also, which we'll talk about specifically, it should be fed in measured and reasonable bites. So let's go back to this slide. Here's our Yabbit slide. This slide in pie terms probably is not this, but it could be this. There's certainly a lot of work that we can do to be able to make this, to make our black and white slide better. So we're going to, when the meat or the pie filling of this presentation today is going to talk about different problems that you'd notice with a pie, how that applies to a presentation, and what things you can do to fix it. So the first thing is, and we have a little demonstration up here, we've got the crust pie. It actually looks really delicious to me because I haven't eaten yet, but this is not the way that you would expect and want to see a pie. A presentation would be, we'll get to that in just a second. Okay, here's another one. What if you were to order pie at a restaurant and a waiter came up to you with a bag of flour and some apple pie filling? Is that the type of thing that you want to receive at a restaurant? And it doesn't take a cook to know that this is not the format for acceptable pie. We had a very, very, very talented pie maker who had to bring herself down quite a few levels to create a pie that this is actually a really, really delicious flaky pie, but it doesn't look like a great pie. And so even though all the ingredients are there, it's not. And then finally, I think the thing that we see most in comedy is the pie in the face. If you are given all the pie that you can eat all in one single bite at one single time, it's not going to be a good culinary experience for you. All of these have equivalents with presentations. So, and these are the things that we're going to cover. So, for example, our crust pie, that's when your slides read exactly the same way that your presentation is. If it follows exactly point by point the way that you structure your presentation, it's the exact same thing as a crust pie. Ingredients. How many of you often have to deal with data or tables or graphs in your research presentations? If you are not thinking about the relevant portions of your data and you just slap it all on the slide and expect that you'll be able to laser pointer your way out of it, then that's the equivalent of giving someone a sack of flour and a can of apples instead of a piece of pie. Okay, ugly pie, ugly slides. Simple enough. And then finally, pie in the face is probably, it encompasses these three other things, and it's probably the largest issue that I see as I work with researchers on their presentations, is just there's a lot, it feels like there's a lot of real estate here. I mean, this is as tall as me, as it's wide as me, this screen is, but it really is not a lot of space to put a lot of information on. And we have to treat it like, instead of giving someone a whole pie, giving people specific bites at a time. Okay, so I wanted to get a general idea about how well versed each of you are in PowerPoint, so I want to ask a couple questions. So just raise your hand if this applies to you. How many of you know how to crop a photo in PowerPoint? Very good. How many of you have changed a graph axis in PowerPoint? That's like 80% of you. How many of you have used a smart art graphic in PowerPoint? That's about half of you. How many of you use master slides frequently in PowerPoint? That's about half of you. How many of you are familiar with Adobe Photoshop? Maybe 10%, 20% of you. One thing that I noticed as part of this, we gave the opportunity for students to submit slides so that I could see what we were working with when I was preparing this presentation and what might be useful for you. And we'll address some of those concerns specifically here. But what I noticed from the slides decks I received is there's a great diversity in levels of slides that I received. Some people are still in the bullet point stage. Some people have really great slides, but want to see how they can make them a little bit better. So I'm trying to structure this presentation in a way that will make it interesting for the person that's just getting started with PowerPoint, or someone that thinks they've got pretty good slides but wants to know how they can make them, quote unquote, gorgeous. So in every one of these categories that we're going to be talking about here, we're going to have 3 levels of fixes. So we'll have a level 1 fix, which is going to be easy and expected. Everyone should always, forevermore, be held to our level 1 standard. It's easy and it's good manners. Okay, that's like your home cook level. Everyone should be able to make a pie, a decent pie. Okay, well then we'll include a level 2 fix, which is, we'll call it artful and attainable. It will take a little bit of effort, but it's something that's pretty easy to implement and that you can use and make it done right. And so that will be our sous chef level. And then finally, we'll have a level 3 fix, which is hard to do, but should give you some really good and terrific results. This is your executive chef level. And for those who really, really want to kind of see the types of things that I think about when I put together presentations, we'll also have like a little extra credit mastery where you reach like design nirvana. These are the things that I hold myself to that are really hard for me to do, and I don't even do 100% of the time, but the types of things I try to keep in mind to be able to make myself a better presenter and designer each time. Okay, so before I wanted to get too much into these handouts and things like that, I wanted to make you aware that where you registered for this GRITS event at grits.usu.edu, how to create gorgeous slides, that I've put a whole lot of resources up there. So if you go back to the event page, you will find all the slides from this presentation, as well as the director's cut version, because I cut about 100 slides out of this last night. So you can see all of the examples that I've put together for this. This handout will be on there. Everything, every link that I reference will be on there. So you don't have to, you can worry about watching the presentation instead of taking notes on things that you think that you might miss. So if it's a URL or a link or whatever else, don't worry about having to copy any of them down. This URL is on your handout, so you don't even have to copy that down. So you can just pay attention and not have to worry about missing content.